All right, man. We back at it.
All right, episode 3.
Episode 3. I think we got an interesting one today.
Oh yeah,
Something we both have a little bit of experience in.
quite a bit.
Yeah, and that is, the psychedelic world.
Oh yeah,
Pretty interesting. One of my favorite topics, honestly, just because of all the stuff it's done for me personally, as far as growth and helping heal from trauma in the past and bad relationships, parents' divorce, everything, right?
Crazy how controversial it is, huh?
It is, yeah,
right?
It is.
You kind of seem like a loony for doing them, or you're like a bum, a loser, or crazy something, but the effect is so completely opposite of that.
It is.
People think you do psychedelics, you're destroying your brain. Oh, you're tripping balls, just seeing crazy colors. There's nothing positive to gain from it.
Right.
You just go into an altered state that produces nothing. Couldn't be further from the truth.
Exactly. It's like we're not in our rooms trying to do hero doses just for fun.
And it's not even something you abuse, really. People can do them one time and have a profound experience. Yeah. And they're done. They're good. It's like, I did it once, dude. It was cool for me. That's it. It changes their lives, You're not like, it's not like weed. You smoke it every single day. Dude, nobody really does mushrooms every single day. No. That'd be intense. You know what I mean?
These are a once in a while type drug. I hardly even like to use the word drug. Medicine.
Medicine is more
that actually helps you out, recenters yourself. If anything, it helps you go towards your goals even more, helps you align with what you want in your life. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something that really brings you towards, your passions and what you want.
So how did you first get exposed to psychedelics?
Oh, man. It's one of those things. As a young kid growing up, I thought I would never do because of the bad stigma we just talked about. Always hearing from friends like how crazy you'll become.
You'll jump out of a window.
Exactly. You're going to do this. You're going to see purple penguins running across the room. And I was working in the restaurant business at the time, and I had a bartender friend who would throw house parties, and he'd cultivate them himself, and he'd make them into chocolates. Wow. And he would play in a band. He was just one of those guys that just seemed so cool. And when he was going around and he was offering them out to everyone, he's like, hey, I cultivate these myself. They're in chocolate form. They don't taste bad. And look, here you go. If you want to try some, you can try some. Oof. And I just thought that would be a cool environment. The vibe was really good. The people I was around were all people I trusted. There was no unknowns there. It was all coworkers, people I was like very comfortable with. Okay. So I decided to try, just try one chocolate, which for him was just a normal small dose. This guy liked to go deep. So he was like, just one, you're good. Just one. Took it, and the vibe was amazing. Really? I wasn't drinking that night. I wasn't doing other drugs. I was just there to socialize. And it really took me to a place where I was just pure happiness. Wow. Very calm. I just had a little bit of that, like, stuff was vibrating almost. It's hard to describe it. Yeah. It's hard to describe it. It's just like if I were to focus long enough on one spot, it would be vibrating or kind of twisting and swirling, shifting. Nothing crazy though. Nothing out of body. Nothing where I'm seeing dragons or like I want to go outside and go run around or fractals or drive or anything. It was just, I'm very calm, very chill. I want to just hang out, and the conversations were just flowing really well. And then what really sold me is I went out back, and the guy had a giant telescope out back. And he's like, do you want to see Saturn? And I was like, of course I do. He already had it lined up, could see Saturn, its rings, and 4 of its moons. Wow. And it was just one of those moments where I think the combination of first time doing psilocybin, combining it with my love for,
space,
space and the planets and our solar system.
Mind-blowing experience.
Yeah, it was incredible. Wow. And even after that experience, I wasn't exactly convinced. I wasn't like, I'm really hooked now. It was just like we talked about before. It's one of those things I did. I felt very centered. I felt good. And I was like, I think I'm good now. Like I'm ready to just continue on and keep working towards my goals and what my mission is. And then 6 months went by, and I was like, well, I kind of think I'm ready for another one of these experiences. So a good buddy of mine was like, hey, let's go out on a hike this time. Let's go out. We're going to go jump off some waterfalls, and we'll take them while we're out there. And that is when it really connected for me.
That's when it clicked.
I was out in nature. I was around good people. So for me, it's a whole set and setting type thing.
That's crucial.
I need to be around good people and good energy, because it's all in your head. That's what it comes down to for psychedelics. I've never had a bad trip, and I'm not saying it's not possible. I know many people that have had it, but there's something to you being centered inside your own mind before you do these things, and being around the right group of people. And then also being out in nature. It's really hard your setting. It's really hard to have a bad time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's real interesting.
My first experience was I didn't take the right dosage, probably too little, in Atlanta at a party. Same thing. Some guy was passing them around, and
we talking about psilocybin?
Yeah, psilocybin mushrooms. And I was just like, didn't really feel much. I was like, it's not for me. Never revisited them since that time until came to Arizona hike with you guys. And we did them at, Beaver Creek, the spot. And then that's when I took the correct dosage, but also the set and setting. I was just around amazing people in the most amazing place with like water shimmering, all these colors, like the wind, the sun, everything, the birds singing. And it was just mind blowing. I already love being out there, and then being on psilocybin. It's like, you just connect outwardly to nature and your environment, like on a deeper level. Right. So it just opened everything up to me. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I never felt this before, and you start having those deep conversations internally with yourself and things that, maybe you've been brushing off, not want to get to, but starts to come up, and then you work through your problems. And then this is where the profoundness comes from, that deep inner talk you have. And coupled with the connection to nature, it just allows you to work through it. Mine have been mostly positive. And then you come out of that experience, man, just so mentally refreshed and ready to go. Like your life path is a little clearer. The things that were weighing you down, making you anxious or depressed, seem to like fizzle away. Right. A lot of stuff. But for me, I've had bad trips too.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. Yeah. So do you remember your first one?
Yes. And it was in Atlanta, sure enough, in my apartment. And is for me, being indoors felt very unnatural. Sharp corners, the TV blaring, like a bunch of brain numbing crap was coming out of the TV, just on. Felt super unnatural, and just like you don't belong in there. So the set and setting was off. So then that led to some super like negative thoughts, which weirdly enough went completely away when I went out on the balcony, and the sun is glistening, the leaves on the trees are like flowing in the wind, and like it's hitting my face, the wind, the breeze, everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it shifts mentally. It just shifts instantaneously, dude. And I'm sitting out there on the balcony. I was like, oh my God, thank God I'm out here, because I cannot be in the apartment. The moment I go into the apartment to go into the bathroom, within 10 seconds of walking in there, going to the bathroom, immediately the place starts closing in on me again. Negative, dude.
Wow.
Yes, it's so sudden and it's immediate. And then I'm sitting there in the bathroom like, oh my God, I got to go pee and get out of here because this place is so negative. And I've heard plenty of people say the same thing. Something about the unnaturalness of like being in something constructed, you made like a place.
Exactly.
It's just not nature, dude. You just don't feel the same.
Right. And it has to be that connection to just how long mushrooms have been around. Mm-hmm. It's one of the few things that has survived the dinosaur apocalypse, the old comet hitting. Psilocybin, the way it connects to itself, the way it's very similar to the human genetic makeup as well. There's a lot of really interesting factors.
Yeah, it fits like a glove in the brain's receptor too. It has a special little receptor in that psilocybin binds to perfectly in the brain. Yeah,
it's real interesting. And I wonder if that's part of why the unnatural habitats are what help to not feed into that. Right. And why nature is probably the best way to experience it. Yeah. You're reconnecting essentially back to...
That's what it feels like. Yeah, it's like you're centering yourself with things that... You're realigning yourself with what's really important. In a way, it's for me when I go out there and I hike, and that goes back to our hiking episode when we talk about why it's so amazing. This kind of ties into that because this is part of what you use to, I wouldn't even say amplify, but really unlock what it is to be out there.
Word. Yeah.
Because it just takes it to a new level. Like hiking by itself is incredible, but that's just one part of the puzzle that creates such a bigger picture when you do psychedelics out there that really allows you to heal yourself mentally. And I don't know, for me, man, it's nuts being out there. Like I said, it's pulled me out of depression plenty of times already. And
absolutely.
The only problem I have is that it doesn't last forever, dude. It's something you kind of have to keep redoing once in a while to get the little boost back, to get your mental focus realigned correctly. And then again, a month passes. If you wait too long, you start falling off again. It puts you in that mental place where you start performing better too after you do them. Like you have that conversation with yourself, like, why am I not doing enough? why did I skip that meal?
Yeah, I've noticed that. You're facing all your truths, all your realities.
It's like your subconscious comes up, bubbles up, and it's like those little oh, I shouldn't have skipped that meal that day. That you have that little voice that tells you, and you're like, your sober mind's like, yeah, whatever, forget about it. And then you move on with your, all those little things like come up when you're on psilocybin and other psychedelics. It's like, why did I do that? Why am I inconveniencing myself? Why am I doing this? This is distancing my dream self from my actual self in reality. It's like bridging the gap. It's like, I know what I need to do to be my dream self, the person I dream of being.
Right.
And psilocybin and all the other psychedelics tend to focus that and show you the difference of why. And it's through your actions. And it's your actions that get a spotlight,
I agree. And I think that's part of having a good trip versus a bad trip. Mm-hmm. If you're doing the things you're not following the right path in life, and now you're going to try to unlock something with this, it's going to hit you hard. You're going to have to face your demons quick. Mm-hmm. So that's why I always recommend to people like, hey, make sure you're on the right path, or like you're eating healthy a couple days before, you're with the right people. Because when you get out there, it's going to be in your face.
Oh, yeah.
There's no denying it. Your brain goes there.
Yeah.
There's no stopping it. And it's very powerful. And I think in a way, because normally when we're just in our everyday lives, we can stay distracted, stay busy, and we can run from what's in front of us. And if you're not doing the right thing, it's easy to be distracted by the next TV show, the next binge watching, the next plate of food you're going to put in front of yourself.
Swiping up on Instagram forever, TikTok. Yeah.
There's a reason.
Have you seen somebody have a bad trip out hiking?
I have not actually.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't been around it, and I wonder if it's part of the energy exchange when you're with a good group of people, that everyone is like, I try to be on a good wavelength, and I think it helps bring others up to that wavelength. So I've never actually seen someone have a bad trip, and I don't know what that's like. Wow. I've come very close to having one.
Really?
Yes, we were hiking at Fossil Creek, and as we were going down, we took a medium dose, nothing too crazy, but we had a couple we passed by, and they were asking, we've never been here, what's the route? And I told them the exact route, how to stay to the right, because if you go to the left, you have to cross the river. You'll end up on the wrong side of the waterfall, this, that, the other. We get to the hike, and I'm expecting them to be, about 15, 20 minutes behind us, and they just don't show up. And now I'm starting to worry that I sent them down the wrong path. So it's more so, it was like a self-induced.
Yeah.
Exactly. And now everything's starting to hit me. And this is the part where you want to sit back, relax, and start facing all the stuff like we just talked about.
Yeah.
But I can't do it because all I can think about is this poor couple that maybe I sent them down the wrong path. And we know we've run into plenty of groups. Who knows if they had enough water, enough food? I don't know what they were packing.
Yeah.
They were their first time there. I don't know how experienced they are. So it was really getting heavy on me, heavy on my conscience that I might have sent these people down the wrong path. And then sure enough, they showed up about 20 minutes late. They did go down the wrong male trail instead of the main fossil trail, but they did make it back. They realized it was the wrong path. And it was like a wave of emotion hit me. As soon as they showed up and I saw them, they waved to me. I waved back. I jumped in the cold water. And then all the relief came over me, all the fun.
Oh, man.
All the good experiences of it came with it right away. So that's honestly my closest experience to a bad trip. And that was almost more just me, again, being in my head, knowing that, hey, I care about these random people because I want everyone to have a good time. And then when they did show up, it was like, wow, let's relax. Let's have fun. And now it's time to face my demons. What I've been missing, you know what I mean? I'm like, all right, that was great. But now let me really dive into my own psyche and my own depths and figure out what's going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've seen it once at
really?
Beaver. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
A girl was not ready for it, I guess, mentally dealing with a lot of stuff. And so we took, the usual 3.5, whatever grams, just an eighth. And then a lot of people too, that was the problem also. A lot of people at the Beaver spot, and she started freaking out, a little bit, like everything that she was mentally just not wanting to deal with started coming up with their family and like some heavy stuff, and I was like, hey, I'm here for you. It's okay. We're out in nature. We got all day. Just work through it. It's, it won't last forever. And if you need me, I'm right here. And then sure enough, it's like was freaking out a little bit, but then started calming down and like worked through it and really had at the moment very intense like emotions about everything that she was dealing with, but came out of it so like so appreciative. She's like, wow, that was extremely intense, but profound. It helped her unwind some of that stuff in the back of her head that she just, you don't want to go through when you're sober minded, I guess you could say. And so that it was bad for her during the moment, but when she came out of it, she was like extremely grateful, like, oh my God, I'm so thankful I did that. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, I could see it on you. It's like a weight got lifted,
right?
It
was like that sounds like forced therapy.
It is almost, man. And it's like, I don't know, I've always recommended it to people even when they were dealing with heavy shit, because I've known people that one guy in particular was a quadriplegic, and he was wanting to take his own life, like was on the edge, and was trying everything under the sun. He was put on all the pharmaceutical stuff, numbing him, wasn't doing anything. The guy had no passion for life. I mean, you're paralyzed, dude. And told his family he's just gonna, the last hurrah, try psychedelics. And so he did mushrooms and completely changed his outlook on life. Like, he's looking forward to living now.
Incredible.
And yeah, that was from somebody that was on the death's door, like was ready to check out in life. And psychedelics helped him work out whatever it was in his mind and like open his mind up to the possibilities of what life can be, even if he's paraplegic, or who knows what that guy was going through. But whatever it did, man, it helped. And then he moved on to another level, and he tried LSD because he needed something more. It's like he knew there's something more.
Gotcha.
And like he felt like mushrooms was kind of like the opening the first door, but you can't go deep enough to some, whatever level he was searching for. He got enough of it, and then I haven't heard from him since, so I don't know how his LSD experience went. Okay. But I'm assuming it went really well, because if he took mushrooms that well, I'm assuming LSD
exactly.
Did the same. Yeah.
So that's kind of like the next level up there. Yeah.
So yeah, dude. How about LSD then?
Yeah, no, I mean, as someone who just tried it this year for the first time, and someone who's done psilocybin for, the last decade, pretty much on and off, just to help with my past traumas and whatnot, I would actually say that LSD is the next step up. And it's not as scary. I was always told my whole life what would happen. I'd go crazy, how I would feel. It's much more intense. You'll see all these crazy visuals. But again, for me, it was just like the next level.
Dose dependent, dude. I mean, I'm sure if you do too much of it, you start tripping out.
I'm sure, absolutely.
Right, and like anything, you can abuse it.
So the recommendation is you always start slow. The number one thing with psychedelics, you can always take more, you can't take less.
Right.
So you always start slow and build your way up. And for me, it was just a very profound experience. I was hearing music for a way I've never heard it before. I was seeing colors I've never seen. It makes me wonder if this color spectrum exists all the time and we just can't unlock it with our eyes. But something about the psilocybin, the LSD, unlocks these colors, because it's the most vibrant colors I've ever seen.
Right.
And it's one of the coolest experiences ever. And it's real. It's real. It's not just this thing that's happening. It's like these colors exist, but I can only unlock it through this one type of medicine.
How would you describe the difference between mushrooms and acid to somebody?
As someone who's done a lot of psilocybin, acid was much better. The
Really?
LSD was only up in my head. There was no stomach. There was no anxiety, because technically psilocybin, it's mushrooms. You're poisoning yourself technically. Your body is digesting something and you're having the chemical reaction in there, which is fine. Every time for me, it always feels like a little bubbly, like a little anxiety happening, and then I break through and I have a good time.
Feeling.
A queasy feeling. It's not bad. It's not like an upset stomach, but it's just like something's going on in my stomach and I know it's about to happen. With the LSD, it's a very smooth roll on, and then it's much more intense than psilocybin. But again, it's very wavy. So once you get over the first wave, you're going to chill out. Then the second wave's going to come, not as bad. And you're just riding these small waves
Peaks
until peaks and valleys until you mellow out. And the come down is just very smooth. There's no, you don't feel as drained as, again, that psilocybin is technically poisoning you. You're technically taking a mushroom. Again, not in a bad way poisoning, but in a way like I'm still digesting.
You're absorbing something.
You're absorbing something through your digestive tract. And with the LSD, it was just a very smooth come down. Only done it a couple times, but very smooth. Get home the next day, able to sleep great, wake up refreshed. Nothing too out of the norm for me. What about yourself? How
physically,
do you feel?
Well, I wanted to ask you, so physically, okay, that's how you felt. What about as far as the profoundness and the inner connection? What do you get from acid compared to mushroom?
I felt more connected.
Really?
I felt like the problems came to my face a little bit faster, but in a good way.
Like ego death was more intense.
The ego death is more intense. And I'm just visualizing, what do I want to pursue? That whole idea of what's your 5-year plan? Like, not necessarily a 5-year plan, but I always have that feeling of, what is your plan for life? Like, what do you want to make of this finite amount of time you have on this planet? And you have even a smaller amount of time where your body is agile and ready to go. Like, what are your real passions? And for me, it's always coming back to nature. I want to be outside. I want to be exploring. I want to reconnect with the way everyone else did generations before us. And it's something about connecting those two together just gets me very appreciative, and it lights a fire in me. I get more focused, more energized to pursue my goals. The next day, wake up really refreshed, ready to just go after it and start grinding. But physically, it just feels also like it takes my pain away. It's this
really, that's something you say all the time.
It's a really, as someone, I struggle. I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, trained for 10 years now. I have neck injuries, back injuries, minor injuries constantly. It is like a very interesting pain reliever on top of this medicine that helps you face your problems. So it's very hard for me to give it any score less than a 10.
Really?
Yeah, it's really tough. And I'm not out here trying to gas anyone up. I'm not recommending anyone else do it. I'm just relating to my experience through it as someone that has done psilocybin for over a decade and now only done LSD this year. It is an amazing drug that not only takes away my pain, lets me face my problems, motivates me for my goals in life, but also sleep great, wake up the next day motivated. It's really interesting. Yeah. That's very interesting.
Nuts. Yeah. For me, it's, the mushrooms do give you a queasy feeling. It's more of a body high. I guess you get more mellow. I agree. In that sense. And then acid's very clean, and it's from the neck up. There's no weird body feeling. I mean, you do get like spaghetti legs. You do, you
feel a little floaty.
You feel a little floaty.
In a good way.
Yeah.
In a good way.
But nothing like the queasiness of digesting something. It's just very acute in how it works. It'll come on in like 15 minutes, and then you're just doing the peaks and valleys thing, but it's very concentrated from the neck up, and you just go deeper in a sense. I feel like acid draws you in, and then mushrooms draws you out almost. It's like when you do mushrooms, you connect more with nature, everything in the natural world. You're like in awe looking at stuff. And when you're doing acid, it's more like you're looking deeper within. You're having these like profound conversations. It's like razor edge right there on your issues. That's all you're going to see. You know what I mean? And it's like that 5-year plan stuff, it's like mushrooms gets you there, but not as deep. You're having that conversation, but not as profoundly. Not as real, as raw, as like truthful with yourself. Yeah, it gets really raw, man. It can be uncomfortable for people.
That's true. Yeah. That's a great point, that it is going to take you there much faster and get you facing your fears, which hopefully is your goal, or you've done that before and then you can experience it in a different way that's more relaxing. Because to touch back on like kind of why I got into psilocybin, I used it to help heal through bad relationships, being cheated on, first couple girlfriends, parents divorced when I was young. Nothing ever that I thought was really messing me up. But when you go hike on your own, which is another big thing I got into, was doing this by myself. Because it's great when we're all out there and we're all in that good headspace with all the energies combined. Everyone's in a good mood. Everyone's pushing towards their goals. Yeah, I'm still facing problems. I'll have my moments where I get quiet, but there's something very different about going by yourself. Being in your own headspace for multiple hours. You really start to face things. And I've used it to absolutely heal. And it's been great. I've been able to let go, heal from a lot of that past trauma, especially from the relationship stuff. Divorce is always going to be tough on anyone, no matter what your age is. When your parents split, it's your parents. It's going to be tough. But in a way, relationship stuff, I really felt like, at least personally, messed me up much more in my life. And I was able to go out, find certain spots out in Sedona, one of my favorite spots because of the energy up there, all the vortexes. And it's supposed to be a good place in general. But I went up there and found a nice little spot deep inside Beaver Creek, deep in the crack. And it was one of those things that was ugly. Like I had to go back through the trauma and face it head on. It wasn't like I was just sitting there meditating good thoughts. No, I went back to the exact times I was cheated on or what happened bad in this relationship. And I faced it and I ran through it in my head, like memory for memory, and just faced it. But then like accepted it, closed that door, and was happy. It's really hard to explain, and I hope
perfect sense.
Yeah,
man.
I really hope that this is what it can be used for in the future, because they're now using it. John Hopkins is the leading psychedelic researcher in the U.S. The UFC is starting to partner with them and start to kind of get their research going. It's a Schedule 1 narcotic, so that's why it's so hard to do any sort of testing on it right now. But the UFC is partnering with them. They're hoping to get it out of Schedule 1, so now we can do a lot more testing, a lot less restricted testing, so these scientists can do what they're best at, start researching this stuff. So they're really focusing on 3 areas of the brain. So obviously PTSD. So this can be for, like I said, relationships, divorce, veterans, all sorts of stuff. For the fighters themselves, I mean, the idea of locking yourself in a cage and fighting another man with every bone in your body, like that's intense. So there's all sorts of PTSD related causes and fixes that we can do with this research. So they're on the cutting edge of this thing. And then there's 2 other areas. There's also one for cancer patients.
Really?
So they're
accepting death, right?
Accepting death.
Wow.
So this is I think this is for me the most interesting one, because they're giving them to these usually stage 4 cancer patients, and they are now coming to terms with what they have, how much longer they have to live. And they're saying that death is no longer scary to them, and they're accepting of it. And I think that's just such an incredible thing to give someone that's on their last couple days, months, weeks, maybe hours. So this is a gift we could give to someone. And then the third one being addictive personalities, people that are addicted to something as simple as nicotine, or maybe it's more harder drugs, meth, heroin, crack, whatever it might be.
So the Alcoholics Anonymous 12 steps to whatever was based off an LSD experience.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was it
So
really?
The guy broke his alcohol addiction through LSD.
Oh,
and
that makes
trials
sense.
have shown that LSD is the strongest like habit breaker. So smoking, you can quit smoking in like one experience of LSD,
One
know,
dose.
or other drugs, whatever, pills, whatever, anything, it's just that powerful. And I wonder why that is, man. That sounds crazy. And then of course, depression, something people suffer from, like psychedelics in general, just, I don't know what it is about them that's
It
so
is
effective.
a natural antidepressant.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And as someone that I don't suffer from severe depression, but I'm a human being. I have my stresses that are just as heavy as anyone else's problem. They're not as deep as other people's problems, but your problems are your problems, and they're heavy.
Yeah.
And these medicines can actually help relieve the pressure that you feel, no matter how small or how big it is. They are antidepressants. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. But always remember, guys, setting's important. So don't go there. People are going to hear the podcast and be like, oh my God, I need to take some of this stuff too. Like I have depression. I have anxiety. I struggle to get up out of bed. I don't know what my motivation in life is. Like, I'm going to do this stuff. And then you're going to take them in your room, in your apartment somewhere, or around bad people, and you're going to have a bad experience.
And you're going to be like, those guys were idiots.
Exactly.
No, that's not how it's done.
Go in nature. You have to have a safe spot, somewhere serene for you that's super relaxing. That could be over some simple hill overlooking the city, a little grassy patch area.
Don't be near a bunch of people. Don't go on one of those busy hikes or busy trails.
Yeah, just find a little secluded place that's your happy, safe place that you like to go, that relaxes you, and do them there. And I've recommended this to a couple people, and I do remember a couple that was asking about it. And then they actually went on a hike, man. And the guy messages me back because I was posting stuff about psilocybin trials and LSD trials, and he was asking me, I don't really know what I'm going to do in my life. He had some major questions he had to answer for himself and his girlfriend. He brought her along, I guess, because they were together. They both did mushrooms, and both of them had a profound experience. All he texted me back was, he was tripping during the trip. He texted me. He's like, dude, this is incredible. And I was like, bro, turn your phone off. I was like, just turn it off. Please don't text me until it's done. Turn your phone off until you're walking back to the car. It's all over. And he's like, okay, I'll listen to you. And he turns
Great
his phone.
rule, by the way. Great rule. Always put your phone on airplane mode.
Yeah, just no electronics, nothing. Disconnect completely. And so they did. And he came back the next day, and I asked him, I was like, bro, how did it go? I'm just so curious. And he's like, it was the most incredible experience of my life. He's like, and even more so for my girlfriend. He said she found herself, that she felt like she, for the first time in her life, found herself. man, that's profound to hear, dude.
Huge.
And he was like, dude, I didn't go that deep because we didn't have enough for both of us. I was just laughing. He's like, but we're going back out there again. I'm taking double. And I was like, wow, dude. And it's like, and I hear that all the time. I love
those testimonials.
I love them, dude. And it's crazy because it's common. It's not like not a one-off, dude.
Exactly.
Like, you do psychedelics, something like this will happen to you, and it'll change your path in life, dude. I don't know. You just like the after effect of dealing with all that stuff just puts you in a very like having agency. The moment you wake up the next day, you're like, okay, I'm gonna go work out really hard. You're just doing everything to the T that you've been kind of putting off. I don't know. It's just like, why does that happen? I can't explain it.
The ultimate reset button.
Dude, it really is. And the thing that sucks, it doesn't last.
It does not last.
You know, you'll have an incredible experience and maybe you're dialed in for like a week or two and then it starts to fade again. And you kind of need to like redose.
Right.
So
I know a lot of people, like we talked about earlier, you can have profound life-changing effects for the rest of your life. The old LSD studies, these were back in the late 60s, early 70s when it was legal. Then it became illegal. They had these people do one dose and it was lifelong effects on them. And that's great for some people. And then some people can go years with these effects lasting. Some people can go 6 months. And then like you said, sometimes you need that refresher every month.
Yeah, and it's crazy because the trials show that the people that have done psychedelics are happier in life, tend to be more successful in life, achieve their goals more often. It's crazy. Like, how haven't we known about this? Why is it only now becoming popular again? You know, what were the people, I wonder, the 60s and the 70s hippies that were on this train? And
right.
I guess, you know, the counterculture was like the Vietnam War. We're not for war. You know, the government's like, holy crap, what's going on? These hippies, there's too many of them. They're doing this drug that's like making them seek peace and acceptance and everything. And then, oh my God, let's ban it. It's illegal.
Right.
Jail them.
Do you think we're on another wave now?
There's no way they can ban it now.
Psychedelic revolution, I guess, version 2?
100%. It's resurging again because it's been decriminalized in like Portland and Washington. I think in Oakland too.
So certain cities, but Oregon as a whole state has been decriminalized, which is
every plant.
Which I think is honestly the path to not only cutting out the middleman, the black market, but also getting help for people that are suffering from real addictive personalities. And we've seen it in other countries. That's kind of the big argument is look at Amsterdam, look at all these places that legalize every drug. They have the lowest addiction rates. They have services to help people that are addicted still, and they have counseling. It's like, stop sending these people to jail.
Right.
Stop ruining their lives. Yeah. So when they get out, that they have nowhere to go work and they're going to go right back. Like, let's help people.
Yeah, it's a health issue, not a criminal issue.
Exactly.
It's what you ingest, man. It's so stupid that we don't have agency over our own
mental
bodies.
Health is such. I think mental health is not just a hot topic right now because it's real. I think we've been ignoring mental health. Our parents were always just told to tough it out.
Right.
Stop complaining. Shove your feelings in the back and just keep moving, when really that's not the way to deal with it.
Right.
And I hope that, you know, the psychedelic revolution will help unveil a lot of these issues we've been hiding. Most definitely.
It's the cat's out of the bag now. I mean, with the power of the internet, everybody knows. They listen to stuff like this or testimonials of other people, 100%. Or it's just they're allowed to voice their opinion on experiences, and it's reaching a much wider audience.
Exactly.
You know, before you had to know a hippie in the hippie culture, be related to one, something like that. Like, you couldn't go on Facebook and see a 20 million view video of some guy describing how he beat his depression and now his life is so much better, or crazy stories like,
and he's a at-home family guy, businessman, everyday, you know, your average Joe
on the brink of killing himself, and all this, and you hear how like psychedelics saved his life, and then like that's 20 million people that just seen that and now start wondering themselves. But yeah, dude, the cat's out of the bag because essentially now you're starting to decriminalize them in little cities here and there. States will follow now, and then it's going to be a wave the same way marijuana started in California. You know,
I agree. The green rush will now have the psychedelic rush. Yes. One state at a time, one city at a time, slowly moving towards.
I hope the federal government, I hope, moves their ass on this. You know, it's obviously interest groups like Big Pharma is going to say no. They want you doped up on their pills.
Yeah, they'll be lobbying against it.
Yeah, they'll be
sure.
lobbying hard. So it might stay a Schedule 1 forever, and then there'll be a stupid gray area, just like weed, where the state will legalize it and it'll be recreational, but the federal government won't. So then you have this weird gray area as a business owner when you're trying to have a dispensary of, say, psychedelics.
You could still get busted, shut down.
Exactly. It's going to be it's a mess, dude. But again, you can't. Just like weed, a mushroom is just something that grows in the ground, dude. You just, how do you stop it?
Longer than humans.
Yeah, it's this whole like Nixon is what started as drug on wars, and it was basically to suppress minorities and hippies, to get the war drummed up and all that. Yeah, and get vote. But
we show that doesn't help anyone.
Nothing. The drug war hasn't done nothing. It gave rise to the cartels in Latin America.
And if anything, you're just like we talked about, it's hurting people. You can't be putting people in jail,
the
giving them
families
no help,
destroyed.
And expecting them to do well when they get out. It's a vicious cycle.
That you don't help an addict. You know what I mean? Like if you're a heroin addict and then you offend, get caught with heroin, you go to jail, you're still going to come out an addict, dude. You're going back to the same streets where you were around the heroin, and then you're going to get, goaded into doing it again by hanging around those same people. And now you're back on being a heroin addict. Yeah. And then you just reoffend constantly. And that's how you see people like rocking back and forth on the street. Dude, those people are just constantly in and out of jail. At one point, they don't even pick them up to go to jail. And then they'll go steal on purpose or do something on purpose just to get a place to sleep and eat in jail. I've heard that story of homeless people like purposely robbing a store with a fake gun just to get arrested, just so they could have a meal and a place to sleep, dude. And it's from a drug addiction.
3 hot meals in a cot.
Exactly.
Sounds like a good deal.
Hell, it's better than what's out there.
Obviously. Yeah. Which isn't the answer. We need to help people now.
Yeah.
We need to get back to our roots, to what our real nature is as human beings, and that's uplifting people, helping them out. The society has really gone south. It's really gone sour with the way we treat people, how we look at people with mental health issues.
So negative.
With substance abuse issues. This could be the real big secret.
Yeah, empathy. So that's the thing. So it makes you super empathetic.
Empathy overload.
Empathy overload, because in the normal world, we're all just mine, profit over everything.
Step on the next guy to get up.
Exactly. And then you do psychedelics and it opens this like empathy in you that you never had before. Like for me, LSD did that for me, and I noticed it in the craziest way. I did LSD for my very first time, and then I always had this issue of like snapping at my parents when they would ask me to do stuff for them on the computer or whatnot, or help them with like technology stuff. It just annoyed me, I'm sure everybody knows the feeling where you're just like rolling your eyes, like how do you not know to do this with an email? How do you know, because they're old, and you're just like, oh my God, give me a break. How can you guys not know this? And I would snap at them and be like, how do you guys not know this? Blah, blah, blah. And let me do this for you. And okay, this is how you do it. Just a little, like raising my voice a little bit. Like, no, do it this way. And then I was having my trip and I was like, why do I talk to them that way? Like, what? How would they know anything about this life? Dude, they were born in a whole different world that I know nothing about. If they were to ask me to do some of the basic things that they did back then, I would have no fucking clue how to do it. Why am I talking to my own parents, no less? Anybody in general, but that way. Ever since that trip, when they have called for help with computer stuff, I'm just so calm and serene. Instantly, my brain goes back to them, like, don't yell, don't do anything, dude. This is just natural. It's not their world anymore,
Exactly.
And I help them now, like happy with a smile. I'm like, oh, you don't know how to like put a link in an email and copy a photo in there and send it? Like, yeah, no problem. Here, you just do that. Here, do this. And I'm so calm about it, dude. And it's changed that way with how I view people in general. Like, yes, you could still get road rage and stuff like that, but my empathy has grown so much more by doing psychedelics that I kind of understand where people are coming from, because it puts me at center to my own stress and struggles with like society, just the everyday grind, got to make money, got to pay the bills. What are you going to do to secure your future? Blah, blah, blah. All the like real things that you have to think about in the world, And when you do psychedelics, you unwind all that stuff, but you understand too, like why you get stressed about that stuff. And when you get that understanding, you can look at other people that say cut you off, flick you off when you're driving. You're like, dude, you must be wound so tight. Like, I know the stuff that is keeping you up at night, because it kept me up at night too, until I finally dove deep into that. And I look at them and I'm like, man, if you only did psychedelics the way I did, it would change the way you behave in general, you know, because I know society's doping you up and taking away your attention from your inner self with like social media, your cell phone, TV,
keeping you on the grind.
Yeah, keeping you working, you know, exactly. And you never have time to yourself, to talk to yourself. Like, when's the last time most people have a real conversation, a real raw conversation with themselves, man? It's almost
Think
never.
about that. Every time you're alone, you're trying to drown it out with music. You're trying to put on the podcast, whatever it might be. Sometimes it's good to just sit back, get inside your own head, and let the thoughts just flow out. But that empathy thing is a real great point, because that's one thing I have always felt. Every time you're on your psychedelic journey, it's almost like you just realize we're all the same.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, none of these differences matter. Your skin, nationality, what political party you subscribe to. None of this stuff matters. We're all one. We're all in the same game. And some of us do have it better than others. And now it makes me appreciate what I have. And like you said, now I can tap in better to understand why that guy's mad at me, why he's cutting me off, or whatever the situation might be. I can be much more empathetic. And just personally for me, it took my empathy to another level. I always thought I was empathetic, but one time when I was having this profound experience, I was realizing that I was taking away from others' experience. When they'd be opening up to me and trying to explain a situation, I would try to cope with them by sharing my experience from a similar standpoint, when really that's not what empathy is. Empathy sometimes is sitting back and letting someone tell a story and not telling your story, because now when you tell your story, they have to react. So this is not being empathetic at all. You're now taking them out of their story and out of their healing process, which a lot of us just want to talk about our problems. A lot of us don't want our problems fixed. This comes back to issues in my old relationships. When, you know, an ex-girlfriend would have an issue, I'd try to fix it.
It's a very male thing.
They don't want their problems fixed. They just want an ear to hear all the words that are going on. And of course, people are different. Some people do want some help in certain areas, but most of the time, to be truly empathetic is to sit back, listen, and just be there for someone, which is just a very me thing, very male thing, whoever. We all have the different traits, but I'd always try to, oh, that happened to you? Well, let me tell you about a time that also happened to me. Well, now they're sitting there and they have to react and go, oh, that sucks for you. Like, you just took them out of their experience and now they're not healing. So empathy has so many levels to it. And I think it's one of the most important skills you can have as a human, and something we need more in the world. For sure.
And people do that all the time, do that too, man. It's something, it's natural, because you try to relate.
You're trying to relate,
you know,
but you have to realize what you're actually doing. And it's not a bad thing, because at least you're there trying to relate, trying to bring them up out of whatever issue they might be having.
It sucks. And I had a similar situation. It sucked for me too. Let's all suck together, you know?
Yes.
That's kind of like the thing. Like, but yeah, sitting back and listening, some people just need to dump their emotional baggage and then just breathe. And you're just there. Like,
there's nothing like a psychedelic experience to let you see yourself for who you really are. So you could just be there in your head and you're like, wow, I do this. I want to do this instead. So now I'm going to take the right steps to make that happen. And that's very hard when you're caught up in the race and you're waking up and checking your feed and you're going right to your job or right into whatever it is for that day, and you're staying real busy. It's hard. These are the conversations that you have to have with yourself. And it just kind of ties back into what we said. It's set and setting. Get out in nature. Don't be inside. And for me, this is a silly one. People kind of look at me when I tell them this, but I'm like, hey, plan it. Don't just take this on a whim. Have it planned. And then eat healthy the next couple days. It's something about like your gut biome ties into a lot of your emotion. And if you can feed yourself real healthy for a good 48-hour period, then go out into nature, everything's planned out. Maybe you're going with a good group of friends. You're going to stay away from a busy section, or you're going to have your own special spot in nature to go to. All these things matter. Super important. And then again, the biggest rule of thumb, you can always take more. You can't take less. Okay. Right. So that's the biggest thing I tell people. Experiment, start slow, find out what works for you, because everybody is different.
And then there is the MDMA.
Yes.
That's a new one too for me as well. My first experience with MDMA was unfortunately what you would call abuse, I guess you could say, at a party, pool party in Vegas. That was my first experience with it. So obviously it makes you, for people that have done it, just it puts you in a feel good state, and it's not as or I shouldn't say psychoactive, but psychedelic in the sense of seeing things, getting, wavy or shifting or whatnot. It's a mood regulator for me, where it makes you just feel incredibly positive and like, it's just good. So that was my first experience with it, which is
pool party.
At a pool party, which was amazing. I can see why it's a drug of choice for like a party drug. Everybody does that at parties, mixed it with alcohol. Obviously intensifies the effects, so you're getting like inebriated, you're getting like that little good buzz from alcohol on top of the good feeling of MDMA, and it's like an incredible experience to do as a party drug. I understand why they do it that way, but its real effects lie in doing it as like a psychedelic in a more traditional sense of like therapy, healing yourself.
Absolutely.
So taking it out in nature, again,
right,
it has the same effect, but in a different way. It doesn't make you go in deep to yourself. It just helps you stay positive. So if you did MDMA and mushrooms at the same time, which we've experienced, just this year was a brand new thing to try.
Absolutely.
It makes your psychedelic experience with mushrooms profoundly positive. Absolutely. In the best way imaginable. It's just like
it almost is like a bad trip blocker.
Yes, it really feels like that.
It's an empathy overload drug, like you touched on before. It's not psychedelic, so it's just like you're gonna boost you're gonna max out your empathy stats. Now you're 100% empathetic, and it really just keeps the mood up. You're not going to have any negative thoughts.
Yeah, and your thoughts are, even if you're dealing with negative events or emotions, it's in a positive spin.
You spin them.
Ultra positive spin. Like, yes, this horrible thing happened to me, and you know what? That was actually pretty good because I X, Y, and Z, blah, blah.
I grew from it. I had this lesson
and come shifts your perspective into such an ultra positive way that
you're no longer a victim.
Yeah.
Now you're a warrior of the causation.
Yeah.
And now you're understanding that, yes, this happened to me. I grew from it. I'm here now. And honestly, it's about bringing you into the present. Like we all know, when you live in the past, that's your depression. When you live in the future, that's your anxiety. And you want to have your biggest bubble be in the present, which is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, being present.
Of course it is. But that one takes you right to the present, right into empathetic.
In the moment, yeah. And then you combine it with a psychedelic, and it's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's really incredible. I've never felt anything like that before.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it definitely is in its own class, like we talked about.
It's a weird one, it's different.
It's almost like this little, it's like the cousin of the psychedelics. It's in its own little area. Yeah. And they're using that again for couples counseling.
That's one of the strongest ones,
veterans, PTSD. But it's really incredible to think like you're having marriages on the brink of collapse, and you have, a couple take it. And
dude,
again,
I understand when you do it, you understand why. It's like, imagine if you were in couples counseling and you did MDMA in a therapeutic way where you're starting to talk about the issues you have, and it just makes you so much more open and accepting that when that other person is telling you their issues, you're much more accepting of them. It's not a slight to you. You don't take it personal. You're just empathizing, man, on a level that you just couldn't before for whatever reason, of the anxiety building up, the little back and forth you guys have had through your marriage, whatever, wipes that all away, and you're able to have a conversation with your significant other in a very like truthful, non-combative way. It's like, hey, this is my issue with you. It's X, Y, and Z, and it's kind of been on my mind for however long. And then the other person on MDMA is gonna be like, oh my God, like that's how you felt the whole time. I'm so sorry you felt that way. Like, I understand how, it must have messed with your head and blah. And you're able to have that conversation without the block being there when you're sober. And I guess your mind is just holding on to the negativity. So the moment somebody says something, you're ready to explode.
Right. You're ready to fight. Like sometimes that's a big thing. And just arguments in general, I can only imagine how much deeper it gets with your significant other. But sometimes you're arguing or you're trying to work problems out, but really you're not listening. You're just ready to tell your side.
Exactly.
You're like, I want to tell my side. So I'm listening to you talk, but I'm just ready to fire. And what this does, it helps you sit back and really hear the words that are coming out. Like you said, it almost like takes your shield down and you're no longer feeling like a personal attack. You're like, wow, this person's really shedding their feelings to me. I need to appreciate that, take it all in.
Yes.
And now I can correspond with the right response, the right connection.
And that communication's all the difference, man, and that bringing that shield down. And all of them do it to an extent, but MDMA seems to be specifically
it's so
for that.
It's in its own class. It really is. But like we said, if you combine them together, and again, it's all about dose, people. We're not telling you to go over there and start taking crazy doses.
Not medical advice.
This is not any advice to anyone out there, but you should always start small and build.
Yeah.
You have to know your limits.
But if you're wondering, well, the dosages I've done, just in case, was just one point of MDMA and then like 1/8 of mushrooms. And that's it. Basically your typical dose for each one individually. And that's it. And don't go even higher. And if it's your first time for both, if it would have been my first time for both, I probably would go even lower on the mushrooms.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's what we call slow rolling. So with mushrooms, you can have a profound effect, but take them slowly. Start very small, dose them out like 1/8 dose. You can split up into 3 different doses, take it over the course like every hour and a half. You're still going to have this great feeling. It won't be the same if you take it all, but there's levels to this. All right, people, take it easy. All right, take it easy. That's the biggest advice I can give, because again, you also want your first couple experiences to be slower, smoother. You know, you want to build up into this.
Know what to expect going in the next one, the real one. Because if you take them head on, all in one go, sure, it might be extremely profound for you, but it might be
you're
negative.
walking the line.
Yeah. So who knows? Are you ready mentally for it? Oh, I don't know.
And maybe that holds you back from then doing it again. And maybe that would have been the time, or like, you know, your 5th time down the line would have been the time where you finally felt comfortable doing the whole 8th or whatever the amount is that you find yourself. Because you know, there's other great psychedelic, psychonauts that we've had. Terrence McKenna, a lot of these other great guys who talk about the hero dose. Yeah. Something I've honestly never done. One day it would be great to eventually get there. But he even says, you know, you have to take a hero dose once in your life to really find out about yourself.
Oh my God.
And that's just something that, again, after all these years of doing it, I'm still building up to, still waiting for. Because again, I'm getting these profound effects just from the normal dose that I am at right now and comfortable with. Going out in nature, having all the right set and setting down. And this is something I'm super passionate about. I've been doing for a long time. I never tell people to do, but if their interest is always there, it's always like, hey, I'm here to be a guiding light. I'm here to at least give you some advice. You're searching for
something, dude. These can give you the answer.
Yeah, because I've searched, I've found, still searching, but I love for others to heal too. And maybe someday, you know, become a shaman, or at least be on that similar path to how shamans help people.
That would be sick.
Yeah, that'd be a great thing.
And it's a pyramid. It's a pyramid too. We're just talking about a couple. There's ayahuasca, there's DMT.
Much more.
You know, the toad.
Absolutely.
I mean, and neither
things
of us
that
have
we
tried.
Exactly. Things that we have yet to
Too
experience.
much respect on the toad and DMT to try it yet.
Right.
You know, I don't feel ready. But from what I've heard and what friends have told us that have done it, it's just another level that takes you even deeper.
Even deeper.
And I could only imagine, dude, what's like, because I've done acid in varying amounts and I've went deep, where I felt like I was in another dimension deep, you know, dealing with stuff. And I can only imagine what DMT is like, what is described as the most intense 20 minutes of your life, you know, something like you only secrete it when you're dying or whatever. So it's intense. Dude, rare moments, dude. When you're born, I think, and when you're dying, something like that.
Near-death experiences.
Yeah, near-death. So I can't tell you guys anything about DMT. All I know is from the friends that have done it and told me it is profound, beyond belief, and you don't even need to do it often. That's a once in a while, truly once in a while. Ultimate ego death, and that performance gain, if you want to call it that, of just self-agency, man, of knowing what you need to do in order to achieve your dreams. It lasts much longer with DMT, from what I've been told. Yeah.
I've also heard that as well. And then again, the difference is DMT is going to be the shortcut version to this, the 15 to 20 minute blast off. You're going to see your geometrical shapes and patterns. It's going to be really incredible.
You're gonna see whatever you're going to see.
And then again, touching back to the shaman thing, is they've been doing it in South America. I believe they do it in a couple different states in the U.S.
Florida
now.
has a church where you can do it, some Brazilian church where you can do ayahuasca.
So ayahuasca is the more traditional sense, where they take a leaf and a root and stir it up, brew it up, and now you're going to be around a shaman who also takes it. That's part of the experience, is you have someone there guiding you, but they're on it as well.
Oh, they are.
A smaller dose, but they're on it as well. Because again, it's this inclusivity that you want. You want everyone to be like, all right, we're in this together. And that's the whole point, is everyone to feel like they're one. So you have the shaman do it with you too. And normally these rooms are very
smoky with sage leaves,
sage plants. They're usually round sounds, you know, but the ayahuasca is much more intense. A lot of people defecate themselves, pee, throw up.
What do they call the throw up phase? It has something like there's a special name for it, where you're like expulsive or something.
Oh, okay.
You're getting rid of all your demons. There's a little phase to ayahuasca. I forgot what they call it.
It's much more intense, 6 to 8 hours.
Yes.
And you typically have it's ego death, but also like you face your biggest fears. You might not even know what they are, but you have some sort of death.
And you don't go unconscious with that one, do you?
No, you don't.
Yeah,
No.
you're just constantly.
But it's very intense to where
ritualistic.
You're not unconscious. From what I'm understanding, from all the testimonials I've heard and heard others speak about it, you're not unconscious, but you're also not there. You're in another geometrical world per se.
Yeah.
And you can see entities. There's a lot of talk about entities being on the other side, but a big part to get there is to technically die. Not really die, but you know, you have to face your fears, face what you're hiding. And even people like us who might feel like we have our lives together, I'm not really afraid, I faced all my demons. No, this takes you there.
Yeah.
This makes you really find out
the
what are
deepest,
you
darkest depths. Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I'm very curious. Not ready, but very curious.
Yeah,
and
that's
I absolutely will do it in this lifetime. Because I mean, you only get one chance at this. This is a natural root and a leaf combined. I can't imagine how long it would take to find that combination out in whatever it is, South America, the Congo, wherever these the plant and the root.
South America, like Peru is where they're really known for. Yeah, it's crazy.
I can't imagine what kind of combinations they've tried to get to this point. But you got to think about exactly. These are things that have been used forever in ancient civilizations.
Yeah, I could imagine. Man, imagine the wisdom that allowed people to unlock.
Absolutely,
you know? It had to be treated really sacredly. You know, it's not something you go and abuse.
It's not willy nilly.
And I've seen them, and I've seen them on, like, you know, people do these little spiritual trips now from the West. They'll go down to Peru, and it's a whole business that's formed now where people go pay to have these spiritual retreats. And you hear the last I heard of this was on a documentary I watched. Some guy was taking antidepressants, and he went and he killed the local shaman. He had a psychotic break, because when you combine antidepressants or antipsychotics with psychedelics, you have a psychotic break. Literally, it's like whatever the pills do to your like neurons or whatever, combined with the psychedelics, man, just cross wires that shouldn't cross, and you will mentally go insane. So the guy was like rambling, going crazy, thought the shaman was doing some craziness to him, ends up killing the shaman. And then the village is an elder, you know, well-respected elder shaman. And then the villagers got pissed, found him, like killed him, whatever. And then the government made a big deal about it, came over, did something to the villagers, because obviously having a Westerner die in their village is like a big news.
Absolutely.
You know, like, oh, these villagers just killed this guy. And it's like, no, but this guy just killed the elder shaman, you know?
Right.
But anyways, it's like people going into that situation, not respecting it the way the locals would. And I have a problem with that, because now everybody's like, I hear it too, willy-nilly, like, yeah, I'm going to go to Peru and have a mystical experience. It's going to be sick. And it's just like, dude, are you doing it just because it sounds cool? Or are you really going for some like life-altering, you know, things happening to you?
And that's why this is not medical advice. Please, everybody, do your own research beforehand. If you are going to dive into any of the topics, any of the situations we've talked about, this is not medical advice. We're not telling anyone to do anything.
Just our experiences.
Just our experiences. Because you have to be very careful with what you're getting yourself into. Because, of course, there's other people that are on the verge of maybe bipolar, schizophrenic, and that's where this could, you know, be hit or miss for you. And again, we're not experts in this. We can only tell our stories and tell you what it has done for our lives.
Yeah.
And all I can tell you is that it has had profound effects on my life.
Yes.
For the better.
Yes. And for everybody we know that have done it. And we've met incredible people through using a tight-knit community that also understands, uses as well, and you get...
There's a bond you form with someone. Even if you weren't out there with them and you talk about your experience, they talk about theirs.
They know.
And they know. You're
they
one
get
of,
it.
Yeah, they get it. You're
man.
One of us. It is very cool.
So,
very cool.
Most definitely. Well, guys, that was a little foray into psychedelics, man.
Man, that was just a small drop into the pond.
Dude, yes.
This is something I'm very passionate about, and I would love to continue talking about for many more episodes.
Yeah. So, guys, read up on it first. Do your due diligence. Think about it. Like Keith said, take some time. Setting is important. Plan it out. Make sure the next day after your experience you have off. If you do this, not advice, but make sure you have the next day or so off to digest everything that happens to you, everything you go through, and see if it can help you, man. It's helped me personally. Again, it is illegal. I don't recommend doing it because of that, you know.
Absolutely.
Law is the law, guys.
This is disclaimer.
Yeah, disclaimer.
At your own use, okay?
But, you know, you can read about all the studies going on, and trust me.
Yeah, please do your research. We will be talking about this some more. Researching ourselves. Very excited for the upcoming years. I think this is the rush.
No rush.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. See you back with episode 4. Take care.
All right, guys. Later.